All right. Hello, everybody. I am Velshonna Luckey, co-founder and executive director for the Self-Healing Communities Collective. This is our third annual Zoom-a-thon. And oh my gosh, the excitement. I text a friend who knows I love Christmas, and I was like, I feel like it's Christmas morning. And it was it's just a really beautiful feeling. We will be here all day, and I just want to share my screen really quickly to help you lean into what this day is bringing us. So I'm about to share my screen. Everyone can see? All right. So when you share with your family and friends, please invite them to our Give Grow page. Everything they need is there. You see this a little bit differently than what others will see because I am an administrator. So imagine you can only see this home screen and then the fund the need screen. And when you get here, you will see our donations growing. They're growing this morning. It's so excited. We started the day with over $1,000. That felt really good. And then you have the schedule. And listen, we have stuff all day long. And as you can see, we have so many amazing speakers. And again, this is a fundraiser, and we have lots of options to give on our Fund the Need page. I also want to say thank you to everyone who has helped make this be an amazing success. You will meet lots of beautiful, amazing people. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we are going to hear from our amazing board chair, Bahati, and I will spotlight her for everyone. We are so grateful for the gift of her. Thank you, Bahati.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Happy Saturday. We are going to actually start our conversation today, really thinking about what it means to be a meta leadership movement. But as Velshonna has shared, my name is Bahati Aimee. I am the board chair for the movement, and I also work in Chicago for a foundation that supports community power building, leadership development, and also self-determination of people. So it's so good to be with you today, learning about and celebrating our work with Self-Healing Communities Collective. And the tagline that you all have read before is Self-Healing Communities is a meta leadership movement to build resilient communities. And although I think, meta leadership movement, we can probably all collectively read that and have a better understanding of what that looks like and means. I want to share that it's definitely been a learning curve for me, not one that is unfamiliar. It's one that I was looking for, one that I desired in my own leadership, but I actually didn't know that there was a framework for the ways that we could better be in relationship, not only with the work, the communities that we serve, our teams, but also very, very importantly to me as a leader. So I want to start our day sharing about what I've been learning about meta leadership and the thoughts behind this movement. So when I think about what it means to be a meta leadership movement, I think about the journey that the movement's board has been on for the last 10 months together. So we're learning what it looks like to lead with wholeness, with curiosity, and with care. And I want to share that we're a relatively new board. Actually, we're a new board, right? And honestly, we've been learning a lot about ourselves, about each other, and about what it means to lead in a way that truly reflects the values, the vision, the work of self-healing communities and the spirit of it. So a couple meetings ago as a board, we took the time to discuss what meta leadership means for our work. And I've been learning that meta leadership is a framework that includes three critical components. There's many other components of this work, but I think these three help us kind of understand why this was a useful and valuable framework for the self-healing communities model. And then also thinking about how self-healing communities is integrating itself in so many other communities across the region, across the country. And my vision is across the globe. And I don't hold that vision alone. So it's about leading at several levels at once, within ourselves, which is one level, across relationship, and in connection with the bigger picture of what we're part of. So it starts with ourselves, which is the person. So much of our work actually requires each of us to turn inward, to pay attention to how we think, to pay attention to how we feel, and what we carry on all of our plates, like all that we carry. And that includes our position in our organization, how we got to that position in our organization, the work that we're doing. But also importantly, I think a lot of us have this kind of thing that we learned, right, from dominant culture that we leave ourselves at the door when we walk into the organization. But meta leadership really invites us and welcomes us to bring ourselves, our person, into this work. So it starts with how we notice our own reactions, our own biases, our own habits. And this is also a critical component of the self-healing community's teachings. It's that practice of self-awareness and emotional intelligence that allows us to show up with intention as leaders rather than reaction. And I know for me, this has meant slowing down and getting very honest about how I lead and what I need to stay grounded in my leadership. And then there is the situation, right? The context in which we are leaders and the relationship that we have with others amongst us, right? The people that we encounter. Those are our colleagues, our peers, our coworkers, our loved ones, and very, very importantly to all of us, our communities that we are in service to. This is really thinking about like our context as collective leaders. And this is really where that meta leadership comes in, right? That meta kind of like high level systems level change that self-healing communities is interested in. So over the past year, we've had to understand the context that we as a board, as a new board, are leading in, and the limitless vision of the self-healing communities work. And it doesn't exist in any single place, an organization, or leader. It's about a collective ownership. So really thinking about the history, the healing, the hopes of our communities, and the important part of what we're learning and navigating together. So the movement is inviting us, the board in the last 10 months has been inviting each of us to lead with the kind of intentionality that is so central to the self-healing community's movement, to make room for everyone's creativity, everyone's wisdom to surface. And then finally, very importantly, really thinking about the connections that are amongst all of us and the work that we do, the vision and the missions that we carry and hold. And meta leadership and self-healing communities is really about connection, building relationships that cross boundaries and differences. It's about trust, communication, and a shared sense of purpose. And I want to really kind of underscore the paradigm shift that happened in my mind, right? So when I say a shared sense of purpose, I really want to focus on that idea of sense. So we're all carrying a different way of thinking about this work, and that's really what brings that aspect of brilliance, right, and ingenuity to the work that we do. However, how can we collectively understand what a shared purpose looks like? So bringing in our individual unique brilliance, how can we continue to kind of define, shift, stay flexible in the ways that we have a shared vision for our collective wellness and well-being and the resources that we need in order to reach that? So as a board, we have been practicing that. We're learning, we're in the beginnings of understanding that. As we're going into a new year of board leadership, we're thinking about what we've learned, how to truly listen to one another, and how to weave our individual experiences and skills into something collective and strong. So when I think about what it means to be a meta leadership movement, I think about it less as a title and more of a practice, an embodiment, an ongoing living way of being in relationship with the people around us. So it's this dance between self-awareness, awareness of our surroundings, and connection to others that we're really refining together. And the beautiful thing is that when we lead this way, we're not just doing healing work. Like I said, we're embodying it. And we're showing what it looks like to lead with wholeness, with curiosity, and with care. And that's the opportunity in front of us, all of us together, to keep learning together, to keep building spaces where people show up fully, and to keep reminding ourselves and our beloved communities that they already have the power to heal themselves. And with that, I want to thank you, all of you, for being a part of this work, for joining us today, and for leading this movement with such heart. And with that, I will pass the conversation over to Mashavu.
Good morning. I am Mashavu Rogers Fields, and I am Self Healing Communities project manager as well as the board scribe, and I serve on some of the committees on the board. We have with us today our board chair you just met if you were here a few minutes ago, Bahati Aimee. She is also program officer at Wood Fund Chicago. And we have our vice chair, Karina Duffy, who is Self-Healing Communities Science Program Coordinator, as well as Research Coordinator at the Center for Health and Happiness at Harvard University. So for a brief moment, ladies, we are going to let them into our world. As an executive team, we met on several occasions throughout, sometimes more and sometimes less, but we always kept that connection going with each other. And we want to take this time to just allow them a little glimpse into our world and what we do all the time. So Karina, you start us off how you normally start us off.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm just so filled and nourished by both Velshonna and Bahati's remarks. Oh my gosh, Bahati, I was taking notes. It's like, what the heck? I'm even learning more from as you were speaking. So thank you. That was amazing.
Thank you.
So, yes, everyone, every time we enter into a meeting, enter into a conversation with one another, we're always checking in. And we like to refer to our brain care self-care card. Some of you are familiar, some of you are unfamiliar, but I'm going to just share my screen so we all can just look at the card together. And so every time we start a meeting, we ask each other, what are you doing well? What can we celebrate? How are we taking care of ourselves? And then we look at one of the tips and we ask, okay, what can we grow in? What do we need right now in this season of our life? And so I think we're going to practice this together, right, Bahati and Mashavu, asking each other, how's it going? How are we doing? How is this brain care self-care card showing up for us in this season? How are we leaning in to the different self-healing community resources? So
I'll start.
awesome.
So this has been life-changing for me, and I am overjoyed to be a part of the movement. During some challenging times in my life, I didn't, you know how you think you're okay, and you're like, oh, everything's okay, everything's going well. But this card, and I laminated my card. You all may not see, but I always brag about how I laminated my card because I don't want anything to happen to it. I want to hold it and keep it. And I have one on the desk. I have one in the in the bathroom. I know my husband's like, get rid of that, but it's in the bathroom so everybody can see it that comes in the house. But one thing that I've been working on here is resting up, learning to stop when my body tells me to stop, because I will continue to go on and on and on. And if there's tasks that need to be done, I want to get them done. And learning to stop and rest my body. And which also goes into listening to my body, listening and hearing, what my body is telling me, because your body will talk to you. And if you don't listen, your body will stop you. So that's what I've been working on. And I think I've been doing really good at it.
That's really wonderful to hear. Mashavu, I would love for you to read what Rest Up says right there on the card.
Okay, rest up. Sleep is essential for learning, problem solving, and managing stress. By sleeping, you allow your brain to store information, heal, and restore.
So beautiful. Thank you. I can go ahead and share. I think, Karina, you had asked the question of like, how are you holding up?
Yeah.
And I am hanging in there. Staying afloat as best that I can. I share this. I love swimming. Swimming is one of my favorite activities. And in Chicago, there's only a couple of months that you can swim outside. And so I take that opportunity to swim in the lake. And as a Black girl who wears braids, this summer, I was like, I'm not wearing any braids because at any given moment, I want to be able to walk to the beach and get in the water because I need to. And so I actually just got braids again because obviously swimming season is over, and that's been wonderful. So I was going to add really quickly, swimming is also, for me, going to listening to your body and exercise your body and brain. It's really an opportunity for me to not feel gravity anymore, right? Floating in the water, being held by the water. a lot of the time, the work that I do and the work that I'm doing with myself, my own healing journey, can feel very heavy. And currently, I think collectively, we're experiencing this heaviness in ways that are very, very profound, and ways that are difficult to find the supporting resources that we need, right? Because life is happening, life is going. And so for me, listening to my body when I'm in the water, without that feeling of gravity, without that feeling of heaviness, is something that feels so special. I'm able to really tap into some of the places and spaces that don't get my attention as much, right? And then also thinking about my lungs taking in air and going under the water, and all of that has been such a beautiful experience. And then also lastly, the exercising your body and brain. After you get out of the water, I get out of the water, I always feel heavier, like the steps on the beach. I'm like, oh, I forgot how gravity feels. But also I get such a great night of sleep after. I get to rest truly. So I'll go ahead and read both Listen to Your Body and Exercise Body and Brain. So Listen to Your Body is about being attentive to how your body is feeling as essential to handling stress. So taking deep breaths is a simple way to regulate your body's stress system. And then the second one is Exercise Your Body and Brain, exercising your body and playing brain games. There is a fire alarm going on where I am. I think everything is okay, but I do need to pause and step out. So Karina, do you mind reading?
Yes, I was
Go ahead. We will be here. Yes, Karina, you got this.
That's hilarious. I think it's a rite of passage for you, Bahati.
It is a rite of passage, right?
Okay, I'll finish reading the exercise. Exercising your body and playing brain games such as crossword puzzles or brain teasers can keep your brain agile and improve memory and attention span. I wanted to respond to what Bahati was saying, but I'll wait for her to return. But I can go with answering these questions myself. So, how have I been holding up this season? Like Bahati said, making it through. But it's been beautiful because even with so many things happening in my life, with new opportunities, processing personal things, processing what's going on nationally and globally, I have been awed by the sense of gratitude that I have for the people in my life that have allowed me to move through this with grace, to move through it with self-care kind of at the center of being able to respond to these different aspects of my life that are happening. And so for me, the ones that are showing up the most is finding friends to foster resilience and practice gratitude. And the friendships that I have are allowing me to be present to the goodness in my life, even though there are struggles that I'm facing right now. And so I'm really nourished by my friendships, by my relationships in my life. I think especially this team, the executive committee, we have a group chat and everyone's sending prayers and thoughts and encouragement. And I have felt so thankful for that. Yeah, especially when there's so much happening. And so I'm going to read the Find Friends to Foster Resilience and the Practice Gratitude. Sad that Nourish Your Brain didn't get honored today from any one of us, but we covered 5 out of the 6. So,
Well, Karina, I was just saying, on the honesty, that's one that I'm giving a little more love to. We talked about it yesterday in our Friday check-in because just because of the season, fall is my favorite time of the year. So I want to go as far from nourishing my brain as possible. But I'm going to do better with that. It's just so many wonderful things to taste and to do during this season. So yeah, it's on the radar.
That's beautiful. Thanks
It's
for
on the
all.
radar.
Thanks, Mashavu. Okay, I'm going to read the Find Friends to Foster Resilience and the Practice Gratitude. So, find friends to foster resilience. By surrounding yourself with a strong social network, you can help build a strong and resilient brain. Friends make our brain stronger. And then practice gratitude. Research shows that gratitude helps protect us from the toxic effects of negative emotions. Daily gratitude can increase our ability to be perceptive of all the good in our lives and reduce negative health effects. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
So in our closing, I just want to thank both of you and thank myself for being vulnerable enough to share with everyone the practices and hope that someone will grab something from that and say, hey, or ask more questions later. How can I do that? Or where can I get a card from? It's powerful for us to pause and see how far we've come. Knowing that we're not perfect, we're a work in progress, and we're moving forward every day, and finding those friends to foster resilience has been a lifesaver for all of us, having that support. Knowing that healing is starting with us, with the connection that we have, and that connection is helping to build that resilience, and that every one of us is a part of the collective journey. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Velshonna.
All right. Thank you all so much. So I am going to represent Bahati right now. For those who don't know me, I am the Executive Director for Self-Healing Communities Collective. Again, we are so grateful. This session is really exciting for me. Now, the reason why I was not going to be on this session is because I've been a little teary, just been so grateful for the journey that we've had. And these wonderful ladies, we have been, there have been so many times we've held each other up, and I could not be this executive director that I am today and all the things that we have planned if it wasn't for these two amazing protective factors. And so to help me, as you can see, I've already started. I'm going to just read what Bahati has sent. Thank goodness for her detailed orientation that she could share this. She is not with us for those who just joined because she is traveling, and at her hotel, the fire alarm has gone off. So she will be coming back with us. So honored to be here with you, beautiful ladies. And thanks everyone for continuing to be here with us. This is Bahati's introduction. Thank you all for staying here and continuing to celebrate the movement. Before we begin with this history and the journey, I just want to say how deeply grateful I am for the people and the resource and the spirit of Self-Healing Communities Collective. Every time we gather like this, I'm reminded that the movement itself is a source of healing. Not just for our communities, but for each of us in a personal way. Today, we're taking a moment to look back and to move forward. And we are going to reflect on how the Self-Healing Communities Collective began. I'm honored to be joined with two incredible women whose commitment to healing has shaped the movement. Dr. Nancy Michael, co-founder and board member, is also the director of education and co-director of the Neuroscience and Behavior major at the University of Notre Dame. And Kimberly Reeves, founding board member and vice president. That is a new promotion. Congratulations again, of community impact and partnership at Beacon Health System. Thank you both for being here. It means a lot. Starting with Kimberly, can you take us back to the beginning? What was happening in our community that made this initiative so necessary?
Yeah, thank you so much, Velshonna and Bahati. In her absence, I just want to thank the entire executive team for all of the beautiful work that you all have been doing. And again, our third annual Zoom-a-thon, it is a testament to just meaningful work that's making a difference. And so just want to express sincere gratitude to you all before I get started. But yes, so what was happening during this time? And so Beacon Health System at the time, back in 2012, we do a needs assessment to really understand what should be our priority focus for supporting our community. And at that time, a small group of leaders had convened to really talk about what was coming up around this word of trauma, right? And what did that really mean? And they did, in fact, understand the study from Dr. Anda and Folletti on ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and dug in a little bit deeper. As a result, Beacon then decided to include it in our needs assessment survey, some of the questions from the ACEs survey, so that we can get a sense locally where we were. That is what started the journey. And unfortunately, I believe it was shortly after, a few years later, sometime, there was a horrific incident. Tramiel Sturgis, I say his name because it matters. And in my opinion, the system really failed him. He was, and his entire family, his siblings as well, experienced abuse at the hands of his father and grandmother, abuse and neglect. And unfortunately, he had an untimely death. And in that moment, it caused everyone to pause and say, what could we have done differently to help him? Why was this the case? There were calls that had gone out to the house. There were, DCS had gone to visit his home. The schools had expressed concern. Everyone was raising the alarm, and yet we could not prevent his death. And so it really was an opportunity for everyone to say, what are we doing? And what do we need to do differently? How can we lead differently? And so from there, Beacon, along with various leaders, certainly wanted to take this charge and begin conversations. And then I was able to cross paths with the both of you as we were having some similar conversations. And as a result, something beautiful morphed out of that. And we see that today.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy, what about you? What made you believe that starting the Self-Healing Communities movement was not only possible, but necessary at the moment?
Yeah. So, yeah, also thank you for all of the work that went into creating today. And so building on one of the history points that Kimberly mentioned, in the community health needs assessments, identifying ACEs or adverse childhood experiences as a pretty significant community health concern, right? Second only to obesity, which has a giant ACE attributable risk. I think there was a very effective initial awareness raising campaign. And these kinds of things make sense, right? That like if a nervous system is under a tremendous amount of stress, or if like all of these environmental and relational things can really start to put pressure on a nervous system and drive these negative health outcomes. But like it would make sense: depression, obesity, all of these different things. And so the initial awareness raising campaign was very, very effective. But we were all left with a question of like, so we get it, what do we do, right? We get it, this is an issue, what do we do? Right? And so the Self-Healing Communities framework is a evidence-based framework based out of Washington State, over 20 years of work in Washington State, thinking about or considering like if we consider communities as these living and dynamic systems, which they are, right? Living in dynamic system means that like they're not static. It's not like your table that looks the same every day, but they're alive, just like trees change season to season, spring to fall, year to year. Communities do too. And all of these weather and soil and sunlight factors affect the growth of the trees. And in the south side of town, things can look real different than in the north side of town, right? People live in communities in those exact same ways. And so the Self-Healing Communities framework acknowledges that communities are these living and dynamic systems that change from season to season, and also has a really interesting pairing to that, and that it really starts to evaluate what's called Neuroscience, which stands for Neuroscience, Epigenetics, Adverse Childhood Experiences, and Resilience. So those are lots of big words to basically try and communicate that communities are these living dynamic systems, and the way these dynamic systems function moderates the internal function, the physiological function, the brain function, the immune function of the human beings that participate in this system. So they asked a really courageous and very new kind of question, or the same question from a really different lens. We have all of these kind of wicked problems, right? Abuse, obesity, mental health, addiction. What if we looked at the way that the pressures within a community affect the pressure of a human physiological or nervous system. And what if we responded there? What if we responded? What if our resources looked to people to care for, attend to, learn about themselves and what their bodies actually need, and work together to try to participate with systems to solve the problem collaboratively? So yes, it's a great strategy, and it's also I think necessary, because it's the only framework that I have seen so far that requires community participation, individual participation, and collectively we solve that problem.
Yes, that's a perfect lead into the next question, which is it's more on a personal level. I always, when I teach and work with the team, I always talk about the unique thing about working for a movement, helping to advance a movement, is this living side, the intentionality of how we live this. And so the question that we have is, can you share a moment when you realized that this movement was making a difference in your own life or your own work? Either one of you could go first.
I just talked to Kimberly. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, yeah. So when I realized that this movement was making a difference in my own work, first of all, I will say that I had to change my mindset, right? And in my position, just I think in general, I was always focused on other people, right? And not necessarily looking at me. And much of what the executive committee shared today, Mashavu, Bahati, Karina, and just about how they reflect on how this has helped themselves. That's when I realized, like, you know what, I needed to shift my mindset and think about how I was showing up, really. And it took a minute because I was still just trying, to help everyone else. And so I really reflected on this some. And when I think about building a self-healing community, we hear it often said, it's like, what's wrong with you? And I really needed to change that mindset into, yes, indeed, what happened to you. But now I'm starting to say, like, what's strong in you, right? Like, what's strong in you? Because we all have just a little something that we can do. And the beautiful thing is that it doesn't cost a thing, right? We can lead with empathy. We can model regulation in many of the ways that the team spoke about today from the self-healing communities card that Mashavu went ahead and got laminated, and I need to do the same thing. I think that is a brilliant idea. And then, like, building connections, just checking in with a friend, with a neighbor. I am reminded, and I say this often, Nancy, I'm putting you on the spot, but I remember she came to me and she says, "You don't know how to be a friend." And not that we can't, like it's I understand, like, you're our friend, but let us be your friend too. Like, it's okay for you to come and share with us and talk with us and be vulnerable with us, and so I think about all of that, and that was the shift for me, like, wait a minute, and it wasn't right away. It took time, but I stayed committed to the work, right? I believed in it, and that was the shift that I think happened with me, was just aha moment that I need to really change my mindset and how I approach self-healing communities as this movement that I am so fortunate to be a part of.
Yes. And can I just share one little thing, Kimberly? I remember one time we were going for a walk and we were, our walks are so like we're changing the whole world on our walk, right? And we were talking and we started talking about breath. And you were saying how you realized you were holding your breath and all these. I said, you know that breath card that we have and the
Yeah.
neuroscience of a breath. And you were like, oh, yes.
Right.
I was like, do you have any?
Right.
And you were like, yeah, I just was talking about it. So that incorporation, again,
Yes.
that's the joy of this one being a long journey,
That's right.
because one thing that I've learned through the neuroscience is that change takes time. We have to be
Yeah.
patient with ourselves.
That's right.
So Yes.
right.
All right. Nancy, what are some of your thoughts around a moment when you realized?
Yeah, a moment when I realized, I mean, I think I have moments all of the time. Moments where it's really easy to be in a space and do the things that you've done because that's the way you've always done them. And so I have moments regularly where I will like catch myself or notice something and still far from perfect, but making progress, catch myself or notice something where like instead of reacting, I can notice what might be happening in my body and just take the couple of seconds to again take a breath. And you know what I mean? Just kind of like get grounded a little bit before I just go ahead and like and respond. Before I respond, right? It gives me the opportunity to have a thoughtful response, a little bit more of a thoughtful response instead of just reacting. Right. So without that ability or I'll say it differently, as I build my own skill in noticing my body, I have more of an opportunity. I increase the opportunity to respond instead of react. And it's been interesting to reflect on how much of my behavior was driven by and through reaction as opposed to response. And so that kind of, right, like it is a movement in the sense that it is not organizational work. Like, yes, we can do these things within our organization, but it is a movement in the sense that success here requires kind of courageous self-reflection. And kind of just relating super quick back to what Kimberly, another thing that Kimberly had mentioned earlier, is just that I think many of us have learned to be a friend, to care for others, to give everything that we have. Very few of us have learned to be able to receive love and to receive care and to receive the support that in fact is necessary to sustain us through all of the ups and downs of life.
That's right. Beautiful. May I just mention one other thing? We talked about personally from just the work, that we do for others in the community. One of my other aha moments was that we were working with a local school near the hospital, providing resources around self-healing community and really wanting to help parents engage with their students and teachers. And here we are as Beacon, big bad health system, big good health system. Let me rephrase that. We're gonna come in and we're gonna change the way that you all do business with each other and engage with each other. And in that moment, one of the parents stood up and said, we can do this. Like, allow us to be here for each other while we're sharing you our hardships and our stories. Allow us to be a part of it. And that was it was such a gut check for us as a system, again, to say, we don't want to do something to you, right? We want to be something with you. We want to walk alongside you on your journey. And since that moment, many years ago, it has just shifted the way that we do business now, right? Well, we're not doing something to people, but we want to take all of our resources and connections, and money, and what can we give to you to help you, do what it is necessary that's going to be meaningful in your life. And I think that's a part of self-healing communities movement as well.
And that speaks to my favorite part of our mission, that last piece that is celebrating our collective strengths. And to everything that you share, I remember having to learn the language of what it means to allow myself to be supported. We say a phrase, we are protective factors and we need protective factors. And that was a huge shift for me in this journey. So again, thank you. We are 4 years old and we're still learning. I'm already planning for next year's. We'll be 5 years old as a movement, and we're going to have the best 5-year-old birthday celebration, anniversary. So excited about that. So stay tuned, everybody. All right, next question. If you could share one message with leaders across the region about what it means to build a self-healing community, what would that message be?
Yeah, okay, awesome. I think the biggest thing that I would really stress to leaders is we don't have to wait, for outside fixes. Self-healing communities movement, it mobilizes the strengths that already are present in people, right? And are available to us. And so leaders across Michiana have the opportunity to really be a part of this transformation by embedding compassion. And when you think about like compassion, not just in the work that we do, but in the policies that we have, right? Creating safe and inclusive spaces. Often in healthcare, we talk about upstream approaches. So I'm investing in what it means to prevent, something from happening that can be harmful to others, and really focusing on relation-centered solutions. I think that, true leadership commands connection. It doesn't demand it, in a way, in an authoritative way, and really wanting to really focus on that aspect of the collective journey starts with building from within. And resilience then at that point becomes a part of our DNA, in terms of how we do business.
And I would also just like to add, it doesn't cost anything other
Right.
than time.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, right, like in a world that is built around efficiency and productivity and profit, that can be a hard sell. Time, right? Like it costs time. It can save tremendous dollars, right? Like the original study, the work out of Washington, the work out of other healthcare systems and community systems that have deployed these types of strategies. For every dollar invested is like $33 saved, something like, fact check but it's something like that. Right. But the initial work of it, right? Like to change culture takes time, and the leadership of the one who is willing to show up differently in the workspace. And it's contagious, right? Because you feel better, and the people that are around you feel better. And so you can truly transform spaces. You can truly transform spaces, and it might cost nothing other than time.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes, and that leads perfectly into our next segment. And I just want to say thank you too so much. We spent so many hours, so many days imagining this day. And I'm just really, really proud of all the ways our interns, the staff, everyone has come to celebrate this. And I'm so excited. Hey guys, take a look at the participants. You didn't have as many people in this space, and to be able to celebrate everything that you said, I think it's a beautiful way of helping people see the personal side of it. And that is one of the hardest things that I think we'll have with this movement, is that like, what? You want us to think about ourselves? You want to share neuroscience about like how I feel? And so again, thank you too so much for everything that you shared.